With 200 likes and 100 subscribers, finally getting me to 1,000, I will stream the crazy second game created by Planet Moon Studios, Armed and Dangerous. Not the John Candy Eugene Levy movie, but the third-person shooter with edgy comedy and crazy weapons. Now enjoy the video. Giant Citizens Kabuto is an experimental third-person RTS shooter made in the year 2000 by Planet Moon Studios, going above and beyond to create the game they always wanted to play, with a few complications when trying to get it running nowadays. So let's start with the most important thing: how to get it running. Fan patches are the best way to play old games. Usually the only way to play old games, but with a few complications that I'll help you get through, alongside getting rid of the pesky censorship. The Steam version does have the censorship in place, but it can easily be removed by going into your files and deleting arpfix.gzp from your game directory. The link in the description will have this and the downloadable patch. Fixing the full screen, multiplayer, and supposedly the mouse fix. The current patch doesn't actually fix the mouse problems, so you'll have to do these steps to make it run normally. But now you're finally ready to play Giant Citizens Kabuto. But let's get into the history first. Former members of Shiny Entertainment, Nick Brunty and Bob Stevenson, guys that are famous for making MDK, went on to create Planet Moon Studios.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go build my own theme
game
with blackjack and hookers. In fact, forget the
game.
And their first game was Giant Citizen Kabuto, which to say nicely had a very problematic development, from having a very small team with only 2 programmers. One of the first problems to hit the new studio was their main programmer, Andy Astor, a man who programmed Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, had developed stage 4 mantle cell cancer, a form of non-Hodgkin's cancer, that took his life a few years later. Over the course of the next 3 years after losing someone of his skill, Planet Moon Studios had to build a bigger team to compensate for his loss. All this and the further complications of creating the multiplayer, something Kabuto was well known for, and was a massive focus for the devs, and is one of the many reasons why the development lasted that long. Remember, at this time, 3 years might as well have been development hell. Then, because of how long Kabuto was in development, other games were innovating the industry. A story we've heard time and time again, like the well-known Duke Nukem Forever problems. But instead of a Half-Life, their problem was Halo. I swear to God I mention it every fucking video now. And after reading through earlier interviews, they had to cut out a lot of that content because of these problems. After this, the studio got on their feet, creating games like Armed and Dangerous and Infected. After that though, they became a developer for hire, with the last title they ever put out being a Tangled video game. On the 11th of January 2011, Big Point Incorporated announced that they have hired 37 people who formerly worked at Planet Moon, but did not acquire the company or the IP. According to Planet Moon CEO Aaron Lieb, one of the company's projects went into financial default in December 2010, and they pursued litigation against the founders that owned the company's money. Microsoft canceled the light RPG adventure Xbox 360 Connect game, My Amazing Story, and that meant the end for the company. Planet Moon was then closed in early 2011. That's right, EA isn't the only company killer out there. Microsoft has done quite a few of their own. Now, in a lighter topic, let's talk about the game itself. There are 3 full campaigns with entirely different playstyles. The Meccaryns, a group of mercenary aliens, of course, using heavy ordnance and destructive power.
Well, that was a bit more powerful than expected.
Having their own base building mechanics with an RTS built in, almost like an early concept for Brutal Legends. Heavily leaning towards strategic combat, long-range ordnance, and badassness, including flying around the map using jetpacks and backpack abilities to get the edge in combat. Delphi, a blue woman who looks like a Na'vi from Avatar, if pulled from a Rule 34 artist's wet dream. She's a Sea Reaper that joins the crew to fight against the evil Sea Reapers, including her mother. That's right, we got a Disney princess in our edgy FPS that can pack a punch using bows, homing arrows, and swords. Alongside her insane magic. Being able to leap through the air instead of using a jetpack, pointing wherever she wants to go and flying there at turbo speed. Surprisingly, she might have the most versatile of the campaigns, but we'll get into that a bit later. Then, the massive, destructive giant and the namesake of the game, Kabuto, growing in strength and size from eating Smarties. Using his immense power to throw enemies and objects, using his fists and feet as weapons too. Even being able to create allies from laying eggs, after eating far too much. A lot of this is reminding me of another game, Evolve, except this has a lot more layers to it than just hunting in the woods for a giant. While it is the same concept of eating and growing strong, just enough to beat the level, or go into multiplayer and crush some assholes' hopes and dreams. The difference is, you're not targeting the enemy healer in this game, you're focusing on killing, eating, and destroying, like any kaiju in a game should. The most convoluted part of Kabuto is its controls, because each character has their own concepts and goals. Each character and group has their own play styles, alongside the fact that this is a game from the early 2000s. So, the controls aren't exactly streamlined. Any weapon user has to cycle through their weapons instead of just using the goddamn number keys. While the keys are all completely customizable, they don't have the functions that you would expect. The fact that you'll still have to cycle through weapons instead of picking the one you want, except for sub-weapons, is weird. Each has their own individual key, like the health pack and grenade, which is an industry standard now. With its early implementation here, it makes the mercs and Delphi feel awkward. Delphi can use the number keys to select her spells, which is very good, but because you have so many options, something like the jump key is defaulted to the alt-left key. Sure, you can change it, but do you? No. Because it's not a priority, like spellcasting, shooting, or the ability to fly. Mercs can't jump, but they have two buttons specifically to use their jetpack. One for activating the jetpack, and the other for activating your nitrous, which you'll always be pressing. So you put them on corresponding keys, like right mouse button and spacebar, because you'll be pressing them throughout your playtime. So if something as important as aiming down sights is now designated to E. And when I originally started playing, I changed it, but then I realized I never used it unless I was sniping, but was always flying in and out of fights, or just traveling. And Kabuto might be the worst of them, since he has two keys that allow him to aim, but one of them, burn, can't even be used until the last few stages. But you'll never know that until you acquire the item that allows you to use it. So you'll just keep pressing the key hoping something happens. So I have a bunch of buttons that I don't know if they do anything because they never work. Supposedly, I could do a body slam and even control my children. I mean, if only it was that easy in real life. But I never know what they're doing. Sometimes just showing up when needed, or dying off somewhere without my knowledge. So I give up, and just keep going, abusing his movement and high health, and his OP eating ability to kill and heal at the same time. So let's talk about some of the exploits to get through the 3 campaigns, like restarting the level or dying during the base missions. I don't know if it's a glitch with the PC version or a problem with the patch, and I'm not dealing with the inverted controls in the PS2 version to find out if it's there too. But when you restart the map, you keep everything, usually just your base, but sometimes even the Smarties you collected along the way, with all the upgrades. So if anything ever actually challenges you, you can just restart the mission and have no opposition whatsoever. Until you get your super weapon that might make Kabuto a little too easy considering it's the core of some characters' campaigns. But fuck it, Steam is having a sale and I got games to play.
There are no bar girl services here. After all, it's not polite to disrupt our customers.
So let's continue to make Kabuto a little bit easier. Like the Mercs, I highly recommend getting this shield backpack and long-range ordnance. Rocket launchers, sniper rifles, there's no reason to get yourself killed out there. Usually with this sorta checkpoint system that has massive gaps between each save, let's not take any risks. So since you don't take damage with your shield backpack on, just go up high, pop some heads, return back to base or shop, and resupply whenever you can. Rinse and repeat. If in Delphi or the Mercs campaigns you even have the slightest bit of a challenge, just go back, recollect some health syringes, go back to sniping them with your homing bows and your rocket launchers and sniper rifles. This isn't a challenge run, and we ain't speed running, so take your time, because every failure means a restart. In some cases going really far back, meaning it takes a lot longer to fail twice than to just take your time and succeed the first. Crash landing on this world as they are traveling to a vacation planet. Baz, our hero, has to find his friends, fighting tremor-like monsters that hide underground, by destroying their hives and saving these very intelligent creatures along the way.
That! Wax models of hanging smarties. The Sea Reapers are trying to frighten us off our island so they can take over. What they don't realize is we've been here...
Archmate!
What?
The Smarties! They're real!
The citizens called Smarties. Baz's thanks is then withholding the information to find his friends, to persuade Baz and the boys into saving the Smarties. Thanks, Timmy. So Timmy and Baz team up to find the rest of the Mercs, and find his grandfather, Borjoisi, who might know where one of them is, with his wife.
Collecting potatoes for dinner when there he was. He picked me up and bathed me in the river. We spent the whole day together in a bush. That was when they came.
And she's been kidnapped by the very based Sea Reapers, the humanoid aliens and our primary antagonist of Giant Citizens Kabuto. And let's just say they're not very nice to prisoners.
Oh, Miss Savior!
Wait! She deserted!
Yeah, let's just kill every last one of these motherfuckers. After running errands for Borjoisi and saving his wife, Timmy is kidnapped and taken to one of the Reaper's main prisons to be enslaved, tortured, and sacrificed. But Baz and the boys ain't gonna let that shit happen.
Look, Baz, the guy's clearly bonkers. Let's do a run and get Gordon and Bennett to pick us up. What'd you say? We could be at Planet Majorca in a week.
They might. After Baz and the boys attempt to save Timmy, they finally run to the big bad Kabuto and the Sea Reaper Delphi, the mostly nude Sea Reaper in my version. Fun fact, the uncensored version isn't just including more blood and guts, it's including this. And the final mission for the Mercs is a multiplayer bot match. Yeah, it's a little simplified because it's basically a tutorial for the multiplayer. The campaign does do a nice job of building up to it, showcasing every single piece you'll be implementing into the multiplayer, from saving Smarties, giving them food, and fighting and defending the base. The only thing we really learned surprisingly is how to build the base. Kinda sucks that my favorite characters of the game are an extended tutorial mission for the multiplayer that we can't play anymore. Well, sort of. It can be done with heavy organization or a group of friends willing to play. Now, because of all the nudity, I'll be using the alternate cutscenes. Sorry, but maybe you should play this game yourself. So while the Mercs hold the fort and protect the village of Smarties, Delphi goes off on her own to meet up with a special Smartie to learn the ways of magic to wage a one-woman war against her fellow Sea Reapers. The hardest mission of her campaign is the very first one, especially considering you don't have the full capabilities of her arsenal, and have to fight female Sea Reapers, the most dangerous Reapers by far, with basically nothing. You have to aggro them one at a time and hope you win, or scum them out like I did. But once your father...
Years now. Oh my God. Yes, it's true. I am your father.
No, don't say it.
But I must. I am
Wait!
Your father.
It is all right to weep tears of joy, my child. Yes, I know I should have told you. Yes, I see the resemblance too.
Alright, so once this lovable moron teaches you the most powerful spells of the Sea Reaper race, Delphi becomes an unstoppable god of destruction. But while Delphi is very powerful, she needs the power of souls and smarties to build her base, allowing her full access to her powers. Now, unlike the Mercs, you're a one-woman show. No turrets, no extra help, no extra hands to carry food or smarties. And smarties are a chore for Delphi's campaign. With you spending most of your time picking them up and bringing them back to base, you can scum this out a little with a spell grabbing them from a distance, learned earlier on by grabbing smarties anywhere near you. But no matter what, it's a slog. But with the bows you are given, the ability to lock on and kill multiple Reapers at one time, or just single one out and snipe them without even trying. One Reaper is never going to be able to take you down. You can just jump on them and start slicing them to bits, and using their souls to fuel your base. But it takes forever to do this because you have to max out your base just like the Mercs, for your ultimate weapon to win the game. After all this, we get the most interesting part of Delphi's campaign. She gets captured and is forced to participate in the racing. Yes, racing. Boring racing, but racing nonetheless. While Delphi's campaign is incredibly varied, it's still slow and boring, and it really shouldn't be. I mean, look at this. I failed once because I was taking notes during the race. And because of this, I had to restart all the way from the beginning, like every other map. Doing all 5 laps again, but don't worry, it's not very challenging. Till the last level. The last mission for me was so difficult it took me hours to complete. But it's doable with proper use of nitrous and very little mistakes. And we got one more level left after all this, where we finally face off against the Queen, Delphi's mother, where you deal with everything Delphi's campaign has to offer. Don't worry though, after getting all of her gear and equipment, she is unstoppable, even defeating the Queen with little effort, making Delphi's campaign the easiest, though it does make it boring. After Delphi steals a Kabuto stone, she uses it to transform herself into a Kabuto herself, giving her the ability to fight one-on-one with the ultimate Kabuto. But she does need time to grow, devouring the evil smarties, the betrayers, till she grows in strength. And this seems to be where most of the cuts happened, because there's a lot less cutscenes, a lot less story, and a lot less comedy. And if you know what to do, the campaign is simple, easy, and quick. It was clearly rushed to market, and is easily the most disappointing of the campaigns. I really wanted to be a kaiju eating and smashing everything in sight. I mean, this is the last level of the Kabuto route, and I don't even have to fight an enemy. I just keep running and hitting my adrenaline boost. That's it. Other than a final fight between Baz and Kabuto, I basically speedran it, only having problems when I didn't know how to proceed. Like I previously talked about in the Jurassic Park Trespasser video, the game had clearly talented minds of programmers behind it. But even with fun comedy that never takes itself too seriously, and innovative ideas that leave the groundworks for titles like Brutal Legends and Evolve, and their next game, Armed and Dangerous, with such a troubled development. As you progress through the campaign, it depressingly shows where this game shines. And it's multiplayer. I hear. The reason you're not hearing me express how great the multiplayer is throughout this video is because I can't experience it. I didn't even know it had it until I watched an old Total Biscuit video where he talked about it. And the only way to really get a game going is through the Steam forums, starting a game night, and with all the things I had to do to get it playable, it can be a little obnoxious to start. Ultimately, this is still a very fun game. Other than the racing in the middle and the very end with Kabuto, it's still an innovative and fun title. And how can I hate a game where when they're interviewed, they go on to say this? I know it sounds simple, but we just wanted to make something original and fun. We're basically making exactly the type of game we wanted to, with 100-foot giants, beautiful topless women, and a team of cockney spacemen. And you're a whole hodgepodge of CDS, gyroscopes, magnets, and lasers. We wanted a game where you got some real diversity in gameplay, from the different types of characters and their abilities. I think people will find a greater depth than previously seen in action games. There's also a freshness to this game, in that you really do finally step outdoors. I've seen games promise this, but none of them have ever given the feeling of truly being outside and being able to go anywhere. A great sense of environment. In our screenshots, anything you see you will be able to travel to, and you can even travel out of this world's atmosphere into space. Like I said earlier, there was a lot of things cut from giant Citzen Kabuto. I like to stream and talk about a lot of weird games on this channel. They'll be in the boxes around here. When I finally hit my 1,000 sub mark, I will be doing a massive video on the Overblood franchise. Thank you again.